Jeremy, you want to
Great
say
point.
something?
In line with what both of you have said, there is no licensing involved here because we, practically speaking, can't do it. But what we are is we've set the board up as the gatekeepers of the membership designations for our group. And so because it's our designations, we can basically decide whether you fit or not. And people do make applications to us. We have an application process. And in fact, in terms of clarity, some people have applied, and not many, but some we've sent the application back saying, thank you for applying, but we think you need more of this or something like that. And beyond that, there's no question about it that any board member would be happy to talk to anybody who's interested in reaching a different designation as to how they might do that. So, I mean, I think that's what we're trying to accomplish. It's just simply to number one, add people in who have a certain level of experience onto a list on the website, so that when someone goes on the website, they can see their name, and maybe they'll say, oh, I know that person, they're a nice person, oh, they're a mediator, I'll go to them. So that was one comment. The other comment was, we haven't spoken about the pricing yet, but I would like to suggest that the pricing is a bargain in this sense. As an advanced mediator, people do go on the website. They look at the names. They find out how to reach us, and they look at our website, so they see what's on the site. And we actually get work off the Rhode Island Mediators Association website. I spend a lot of money marketing my law practice and my mediation practice, and dollar for dollar, the Rhode Island Mediators Association is the best $150 I spend all year. I keep track every month of where my cases come from, and my SEO man prints me a graph, and Rhode Island Mediators Association is well up that graph for the amount of people that have contacted me through that website. So that's very valuable. The mediator practitioner that's $100. Well, $100 is not nothing, but if you're involved with the group, going to the sessions and getting lawyer CLEs or therapists, CEUs, that again is a very cheap price to be able to do those things. And the fact is, your name will be on the website also, and so you could get work out of that. All you need is one case a year. My marketing ratio is 10 cents on the dollar. If I could spend $1 and get $10 worth of work, or multiply it times 10 or 100, then it's valuable. That would be valuable. What we haven't been doing up till now is having that category of mediator who's not an advanced person on the website, because we had no way to distinguish between those who had some experience and were mediating and those who joined yesterday. So the whole, I think, the purpose of this breakout is to, number one, give status to someone who actually is mediating, and also to make sure it's clear the pathway to be an advanced person, because if you become an advanced mediator, it's valuable. So.
Rhonda?
I wonder, for people that have trouble with the traffic in the classes, if it would be an option down the road to do some type of online classes through our website. And I think if we're sort of peer reviewed and peer, we're our own organization to advance mediation forward, I would think that some of those classes could be us sharing our knowledge and experience through whether classrooms or seminars or things, whether online or groups that the seminars and workshops that we have. There's probably a lot that we can tap already with existing members, which brings me to the, when you're agreeing to kind of go by the model standards and and advance the association forward, I would ask, how are you advancing the association forward? What do we want to do? And maybe put some accountability on that. So it could be that you're contributing once a year, once every other year to being a speaker on a panel at a seminar. It could be that you're helping put together an online class. It could be that you are writing a column for the Providence Journal about what mediation is.
Or writing something for our website.
Right, exactly.
There is one of the handouts that says Pathway to Mediator Practitioner, not the Advanced Mediator. The practitioner one, if you go to the second page, it talks about the continuing education policy. So we tried to list out all the alternatives to taking a class.
Honestly, wasn't even really trying to be so specific about continuing education from a earn the credit so that you qualify standpoint. I'm
Okay.
thinking
About
more of
commitment to the
advancing
organization.
our commitment to our organization and to each other. It's
Right.
an ongoing mentoring. You learn from each other and everyone. So it would be more to build a sense of community among ourselves and advance ourselves forward, build that camaraderie. If we have a strong organization within, it's going to be recognizable externally if we're strong internally.
Right, so certainly.
All right, I'm
if-
anal retentive, so I like records and I like the information to actually be shared.
I'd be happy to come
rather
up with
than
some red tape to help.
Right, but
associate.
one of the limitations on the number of workshops that we offer a year, aside from sometimes getting to Providence at 5:30, even from Bristol is a pain in the neck, much less from South County, is that it has sort of been the same people doing the workshops. So if there were members who came forward and said, I'd like to put a workshop together with a couple of other people on something, then maybe we would offer more, and then there could be more choice about what are those what are those 2-hour workshops, because we certainly don't lose money on the 2-hour ones. At worst, they're a break even, right?
At worst, we lose $150 or so.
Okay, all right. So that's only if like 6 people come or something like that. If we get a reasonable turnout, and generally we get about 15 to 20 people come to a typical training. If it's really successful, we get 35 or 40. I think we had one with 45, but that was very unusual. So if we had more trainings because more people wanted to work on putting that together, you certainly learn by organizing a training. If you have to instruct people about something or share information about something, you learn a lot by doing that. And you also develop your skill in terms of communication skill, in working with groups and trying to explain things. And so, I think there are lots of ways that members might contribute to the organization. If people wanted to serve on the board, or thought we should establish committees, like for example, there could be a committee to organize trainings. And if people wanted to serve on a committee to organize trainings, that would be a great idea. Over the last 8 years, a lot of what has happened, and maybe this is good, maybe it's bad. You could say it's bad because it's insular and it's the board who has done has put together everything we've done, and hasn't opened up opportunities for members to have a role beyond just coming when they choose to come. But we've actually done some pretty good trainings. Here we are. Does anybody else want to offer any thoughts? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand and I appreciate
Tom.
the value, this is Tom Fleming, the value that accrues to an advanced mediator from effective branding. And the organizational branding is something that, as you mentioned, really does create opportunities for the experienced practitioner. When you segment the membership base, there are burdens and opportunities that are distributed across the different categories of membership. So if someone's aspiring to be an advanced mediator, then they need some knowledge, they need some skills in working with parties, but they also need an orientation to an industry path. And that's sort of like mentoring. I don't see an obligation placed on advanced mentors to mentor someone for, say, a period of 2 years. Everyone takes someone and mentors them for 2 years to try to get them into an industry. They have to choose, because the reason I'm saying this is just that When you go to a networking event, what generally happens is peers talk to peers. And you don't see the really senior managers hungrily looking out for, well, I'm due to pick up a new mentor. Who am I shopping for amongst this new faces? I think it would create for some good exchange between the new people in and the established people in, if the idea was that one of the ways in which you help somebody advance is by connecting them with somebody that knows an industry.
Mentoring is very important in terms of any professional area of development. Incredibly important. We did a workshop years ago on mentoring new mediators. We
Yeah.
actually did do a workshop about
Yeah, and
developing a mediation, a mentoring plan, and a mentoring commitment from the mentee and the mentor. We had, we developed the whole package. I don't think we've rolled it out in any formal way, and
well,
I think
it's online, but
it's actually online. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
on the website.
And mentoring is mentioned on both of the
Right.
pathways.
Right.
yeah. The two problems with mediation in reality. One is that nobody has full-time work. Nobody has
Very few.
very few, and there's family and divorce, which everybody knows about and is the most visible, the most popular, and then there's everything else, and what it looks like. The situation is, other than family and divorce, because people are required to do some legal process to get divorced, every other industry is sort of dependent on the individual to have a knowledge or a connection or an understanding of that particular industry, and then to create their own niche. And there is no, see what I see, and I've been the one getting a lot of the phone calls and dealing with the people who say, oh, how do I become a certified mediator? Oh, how do I be get on the website or something? What happens is they ask the question as if there is some structure for them to fill into. It's like they ask the question as if, how do I become a civil engineer, or how do I become something else where there is full-time opportunity, where there is business, where there are companies, where your niche doesn't exist. You have to create your niche for the most part, except for family and divorce, which exists on its own, and you got to figure out a way to plug into it.
And labor relations?
And well, yeah, absolutely, it does exist. It's very different, and yeah.
How about business succession?
Well, first of all, most labor relations mediation is done by the federal government.
Well, some is done by the Federal
Yeah.
Mediation and Conciliation
Right,
Service.
and a lot of the non-federal. In Rhode Island, you got the State Department of Labor.
Department of Labor and Training
Labor
has
and
a
Training.
panel of
So there is
labor-related-
a mechanism in there, yeah, and you're right, but it's still up to the individual to create their own niche, their own branding, their own reputation. There's no, we don't want to hold ourselves out to be that we know how to train people and tell them how they can be a labor mediator and get work. That we want to deal with mediating and mediation and advance the whole field. But once you start talking about industries or niches or expertise, there's no way for us to, except to expose people, except to bring in speakers from a wide range of interests. But you have to create your own brand.
Right, but Tom's point, I think his suggestion to us is, if we really believe that people with more experience have a responsibility to newer members who want to get started, and that we're saying that advanced mediators have a responsibility, to give, help share that, then maybe we need to do more about revisiting a more recognizable mentoring arrangement. Because very assertive new members to this profession, Rhonda Bergeron, very assertive new members, who will push herself onto you if you're actively doing a lot of mediating. She will make you be her mentor. But not everybody has that self-confidence, to say, what are you doing? I want to sit in on it. Get me, people who are pushy, that works for them.
In a good way.
In a good way.
I'm like, thanks for being my mentor. I'm not sure you had a choice.
Exactly.
Perhaps to make it easier, we need to put something on the website where there would be a place where people could sign up or ask that they're interested in a mentor, so that those people who are shyer, can type in their name and say, looking for a mentor.
In this area.
Yeah,
And
we
it-
can
yeah, and then
respond
we
to
can
that.
try to figure out,
Right.
is there somebody in the group who might be the right person to ask,
Right.
would you think
I
about
think
this?
we haven't done that, and that's a good idea.
Yeah. Tom?
So for example, a specific question, I'd be interested in somebody who's working with business succession planning, intergenerational transfer of businesses, because that's kind of like a family issue, but not a divorce, but yet it is. So it's kind of one of these interesting business areas where a business background gives you some sensitivity, working with people is an essential skill, but how do you get into that to even be in a discussion to get there? It's like, if somebody could point to the bridge on the other side of the chasm, it would help a lot.
I certainly, when I years ago, when I was in private practice as a lawyer, with a business background, because I have an LLM in tax and all of that, as a lawyer, those were clients who families that came in for help in trying to figure that out. I still teach estate planning, trust and estates, so lawyers learn a lot about that, and I think people, clients, parties think lawyers are the ones who are going to help us do that. I'm not sure they recognize that a neutral, when there is tension within the family, might be a good resource. So maybe that's about educating lawyers who do kind of estate planning or maybe business representation. Maybe that's about trying to reach out to them to say, when you have conflict within the family, instead of things winding up stalemated where nothing can be done or get agreed to, or a fight, which I see after the fact, when that first generation is dead and then the siblings in the next generation are contesting the will and there's probate dispute, I see those on the back end, and you're saying that ought to be put on the front end. Now, I don't know to what extent you do that in your elder, because I know you do, I'm talking about Jeremy, I know you do working with a family when there's some concern about what do we do about mom, she's aging and has problems and not everybody sees it the same way. The next generation, some think she ought to be in a facility and some think, no, we ought to try to keep her in the home. And, I know those kinds of cases, sometimes they do make their way to mediation.
Right. Those kind of cases are once a week. There's an intergenerational difference or a sibling difference or whatever else like that. And while I do not mediate them, certainly the mediation skills assist to get them through it. And sometimes I have said to them, I think you all should see a mediator, but and sometimes I have, because of my marketing on the website, I do get elder law mediation, people calling me and saying, I've got a problem with my brother, would you mediate it? And I've even mediated via telephone before, and successfully. And so I think that if someone was interested in doing that, I could talk to them about, well, how how I got cases,
Right.
what kind of cases are suitable, et cetera, et cetera. But if I can jump back to one other thing, I think that it might be, if a requirement of being an advanced mediator is to mentor, because it's in there, there's no follow-up by the board on that, and I think maybe an annual letter to every advanced mediator should be we'd like you to be available for people who would like to be mentored. If it comes up, would you be willing to put yourself on the mentor panel? I'm just throwing out words. And then also on the website, say to other mediators, if you have an interest in a particular kind of mentoring, write the board and perhaps we can try to match you up with somebody.
Right.
As a matter of fact, business succession mediation, I know a business succession mediator who was a member of this organization, who was a trained mediator, and I think he'd be happy to talk to you about that type of thing. So that's the point is that if we have a mechanism for the membership to reach out to the board, and then if we have at least those advanced members and even regular members, because the regular members are supposed to mentor also, if we reached out to them to make themselves available, then we might be able to make a phone call and put some people together. And I think that's a valid, it's an extension of this, because we're actually asking them to do what's on the piece of paper, and it's more value for the members and the mediators and the advanced mediators.
Christine?
I just want to bring the opposing view into it. I remember many years ago when I started mediating, I was given a person to work under who promptly found that I was a threat to her market share. And so I didn't get the help that I needed. And it's a small state. This is just an opposing view. I'm not saying don't do what you've been talking about. But I think there's a real competitive streak and I'm going to keep my niche where I am for myself, because I don't have a full-time job doing anything else, teaching or whatever else people might do. This is my livelihood, and so I just want to throw that out there, that this is not an easy sell for somebody like me. Based on the experience that I had coming into this, the predecessor organization of this, with one of the great members of the mediation community in Rhode Island. And so that was a bad experience for me. And I saw firsthand how people were going to keep me out.
Christine, I think it depends, because
Yes, I know.
I had the opposite experience
Yeah,
of
I know.
mentoring
I know.
people.
I know, but there's not a lot of business here, and I don't want to be a total naysayer on the idea, because I know it has some value in that.
Any mentor-mentee relationship, it's magic if it works, but it doesn't always work. And I think what we did when we put on a training about mentoring was offer up guidance about how to increase the likelihood it would work by defining expectations, making specific commitments, commitment to meet regularly.
And the limitation.
And limitations.
Like
Tanya?
non-compete agreements.
What we find at Sansa, a way to maybe even help alleviate those things that happen, because it does happen, I agree. When it works, it's wonderful. When it doesn't, it's not wonderful, right? But is to set up a review process. And it's really simple, just something like a 6-month check-in or a 3-month check-in, or at the end of the year, kind of how did it go, or how's it going ongoing. You can kind of define it yourself, but really just to talk to both the mentor and the mentee and see how it's going. Because it still may be a great relationship, but maybe something wasn't working well, and it might be a mentor that might work well with the mentee.
Yeah,
so there's checks and balances, and we do it at CMCRI that work really well.
Our senior to junior ratio is about
I don't know what it is.
it's about 8 or 9 to 1 minimum.
More seniors than juniors?
No.
More juniors than seniors?
Yes. Yeah, so there are not enough senior mentors to go around. We started this organization with people who were already mediating for years. So all of our members had been mediating for years. But our growth has been with new people coming in. And without some progression, without these pathways, we haven't had the growth of senior people that would balance out the organization. I'm sorry, you had your hand
problem.
up.
I just wanted to comment on the fact that it is an association for mediators. So if you're joining it, you're most likely wanting to collaborate, and maybe that's why some people who are practicing for a long time haven't joined or don't want to be mentoring, participating with other people. I'm just saying, in the idea of joining an association, to me, would be that you want to collaborate.
Well, you certainly want to associate with the
Certainly want to associate.
I think that's in the name, right? Jay, you wanted to say something.
I think in my other work, my other profession, when I was starting off, I was in a similarly sized market to Greater Rhode Island, and there was a lot of competition amongst people who were already practicing. I wanted to get into this area. I was lucky enough. I was looking for it at national meetings. I established relationships with very experienced people in other markets who were not threatened, and who found that by working with me, young, trying to learn, it sharpened them up. With the teaching, we get better.
Yep.
Is there any way that we could work with a national or a brother organization someplace else, or several, where we could cross-fertilize?
Well, Michelle was active with ACR, which is a national organization, for a long time. Maybe she could take a crack at that.
Well, I haven't kept up with any
I know.
ACR as of late, so I really don't know. I was going to mention that, there are other organizations like Mediation Works Incorporated in Boston that do training. They train and they offer a mentoring program. Now, of course, it costs to be a part of their mentoring program, but they do have a mentoring program, and they're a very qualified, highly skilled organization. So Frank and I both trained with Mediation Works Incorporated. So, that's an opportunity, because we do recognize, I think, that we can't provide everything at this point in time that maybe we would like to provide. But there is some support from an organization like MWI.
If I could just say, so we have one and it's free. So what happens is, and that's what happens, those who train with us go through a program, and the program basically is, you start off as an observer, and you work then with our more experienced volunteers. And you don't go to a co-status until you're at that point where the volunteer and the program director believes you're ready. And then you don't go to the lead status until you're then ready to go to that status as well.
Yeah,
And
does everybody know what she's talking about? Co-mediator,
Sorry.
and,
So-
yeah.
yeah, okay. So, and we don't charge.
Right. Tom?
So I do want to comment on that. I'm familiar with that model because I'm living with it right now. And I was trained in MWI. But I don't think I'm going to come up making a living as a mediator for the courts.
No, you're right.
The mediation that I need, while that practice is critical, because I have no credentials to self-skill unless
Right.
I am successful in that project. That's critically important, is that level of mediation. But the mediation I was looking for was not for the skill base so much as the industry connection base. And it may not have to be through a mediator. If there were a human resource organization in Rhode Island that wanted to work closely with a mediation organization in Rhode Island, and if they could partner up with you and say, we'd like to put a mediator into your HR as an apprentice in your organization for organizational mediation, you have two options. You would either train them and bring them into your training program, so you would place somebody into their program to work with them, or some sort of an arrangement. I'm thinking, I'm just taking this out of my hat, because I'm going with the notion that maybe the competition is the problem. But that whole thing pulls back to the notion of, if you increase the educational burden on your 8-fold excess membership rates, which do not have an income from the skill, you're adding more training to them with the suggestion that that's how you're going to increase their commercial success. And I think that while I don't argue against the value of what you're doing, I think it's an issue of educators selling education because education fixes things. I think that you gotta have it, but I think the other legs to stand on are the things that we're talking about this evening.
Well, there's no question that from the very beginning, my personal orientation has been about training,
Yeah.
because I'm in the
You're
education
in the education
world.
world.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But I do recognize that your self-confidence as a mediator and your competence as a mediator comes from experience. You know, and even if it's volunteer experience, it's definitely transferable to other fields, because once you start to figure out when is it time to set an agenda, you know, have I gotten enough out before I move to setting an agenda? That could be in divorce, it could be in small claims, it could be in labor, it could be in lots of fields. It's about a transferable skill. You know, and there's no question that gaining experience is what enables you to feel like now I actually have something I could sell. I absolutely understand that. Anybody else want to add anything? Rhonda?
I was thinking, I kind of like how this is a little open and not so regimented, I guess, as far as the pathways. And along the lines of the mentoring program, I feel like we can leave that so people could say what kind of mentor they want to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be a one-on-one type of mentor, but I wonder, versus you probably mentor lots of us and have to repeat yourself and everything else. So there could also be, like, you're mentoring a group that's interested in family or elder care. And maybe that, you know, you have a couple of people at a time you meet with 3 times a year. It doesn't have to be intense to kind of share those ideas. So mentoring doesn't have to be so much of a one-on-one. It could be the commitment that
I mean, the
mentor
best
wants to do.
model is the model Matt had when he was in the clinic. You know, the best model is, you know, 2 group meetings a week, an intensive, heavy experience over, you know, 15, 20 weeks or half a year or something like that. That's the best model. But we're not set up to do that. That's not something that this organization has the capacity to do.
How much were you paying a year to participate
Oh, he was
in that
paying
model?
tens of thousands of dollars.
Exactly.
You know.
Still paying.
It's a great model.
Jeremy?
One of the purposes of this membership meeting is to go through all this, but also to try to engage all of you into the group to assist us. And one person might say, gee, I have enough time to work with the board on a mentoring committee. And that person could work and communicate with the board, etc. And if you're interested in being mentored, it might be a good idea to be the chairman of the mentoring committee, because you might get the first pick of who the mentors are. But my point is, I'm being somewhat facetious, but next year Bruce is going to be out, presumably, and I'm going to be in as the
Right.
president. And I'd love more help, because we're spread pretty thin. There's,
Right.
what, 7 or 8 of us, I've lost track. But, we put a lot of hours in every month. And if we could have one person to help with this and one person to help with that, I think the idea of expanding mentoring is excellent. If anyone is interested, please let us know.
Well, that's number 5 on the agenda. Engagement of members in the organization. That's on our agenda, is about engagement. And the last thing on the agenda, in here, there's a list of the couple of trainings that we have coming up. Jeremy and Rick Streitfeld are doing one on Social Security, which is interesting information to know about for ourselves, but also for lots of contexts, whether it's family succession, whether it's divorce, whatever it is, that this is knowledge that might be useful in February. And then in April, we have one on good faith in mediation. How does that fit in? Good faith on the parties, the mediator, just an interesting topic that should apply to anybody who's interested in this kind of work. So we have a couple of trainings, and we have a date for our annual May Celebrate Mediation event, May 11th. So we just wanted you to have a printout. It's on the website, but you have a printout of what all is coming up. I guess, you know, we weren't looking for a formal vote, but I think the consensus is, what I've heard people say is, having an organizational structure, something like what we laid out, makes sense. It seems to be what I heard. It seems to be, and maybe we can take the comments that we got and polish this up and then send it out to all the members, you know, to say this is what we're proposing to move to, and so let people know that, and that was the point of the meeting tonight, was to see what is the reaction to this kind of a structure. You know, have we missed something? What can you help us make this better? So, I don't know, is there anybody else want to say anything else?
I don't know, Michelle's on.
Matt?
Oh, sorry. I did have a question about the continuing ed credits, and if
Mhm.
you could be more specific on that. Is that in addition to, you know, for the bar? Or I know not everybody.
No, you can use them. You can use them for anything else. We don't care about
You get
any
double. You
overlap.
can
All we
get
care
double
about-
duty.
Okay.
Yes.
You can get, you know, double value.
In
out
fact,
of this.
we try to make most of our trainings eligible for MCLEs. So.
Yes.
Right. Michelle?
Just a question as to how people find this venue for trainings as a possibility, because I know some people do find Providence difficult to travel to at 5:30
Right.
in the evening. So I'm just curious as to whether.
So some of you who have come to prior trainings, we have been doing them at the Roger Williams University building because we don't have to pay for it because I'm on the faculty, so I can arrange that.
And there's some prestige to that.
Well, I don't know if there's prestige or not, but it's just, you know, but parking is an issue. You know, getting into Providence at 5:30 is an issue. And that current facility is really crappy, but as of May, we're going to be in
Christine.
38 studios. What?
I want to hear your reaction to this.
We're
particular
talking
part.
about location for trainings, because we said we have been done a lot of them in Providence at the Roger Williams downtown location, which is not perfect because sometimes we get a big conference room and sometimes we get a classroom, and it isn't always easy to figure out what space is going to be available up there. This facility, we can make arrangements to use. It is what it is. It's got movable furniture, and it's in Warwick. Most of our meetings and trainings have been at 5:30 on a weekday. We haven't done, other than one strategic planning meeting that we did on a weekend, most of our stuff has been weekday, Wednesday or Thursday or something like that, 5:30. Is this an easier location for people to get to? Do you like this facility?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
People like this facility. It does have parking.
Parking's great.
Parking is easier certainly than downtown Providence. It's definitely easier.
Do we have any kind of map of where our members are in the state? Because I wonder if that helps determine if you're going to join, if everything's always in Providence. I wonder
I
if there are
nominate you
things
run as the head of the
spread
mapping.
over. There might be other committees I'd be interested in helping out with, but I'm curious.
My office is at the Quonset Gateway. It's
Okay.
right where, it's right across from where the Lowe's used to be.
The lowest.
Very Rhode Island.
But, there's a cafeteria and a very large conference room that seats 16 people.
Huh?
It's owned by the state of Rhode Island. And as a tenant there, I can have all kinds of things there. So, the cafeteria could, has lots of tables and chairs that could be set up also. So that's in North Kingston at Quonset.
Here, here.
Oh, thank you.
Hardee's actually has a community room that's
Yeah.
probably bigger than this that they'll let people use for free. Hardee's, the furniture store.
Right, but you have to buy a recliner.
Yeah.
You don't. It's unbelievable. I'm like, this is free space. It's got like a kitchen. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's free space, and they're like, it's kind of a contribution to the community. So that's another location that's right off the highway with the parking. I don't know. I thought I'd just throw Hardee's out there. Wherever we can get together.
I
That's
heard they
spread
have
out.
an alternative path if you watch 10 hours of their
Commercial.
Well, I know the Jordans has that.
Okay, well, this was very helpful for the board to hear the input that you gave, and we're going to work on trying to refine this. And, if you are interested in some activity that we should be doing, it would be great for you to let us know, because we would try to support you with that. And thanks for coming. and take sandwiches.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to the board for creating this. And